Imagine someone who has always been kind, known for their generosity and compassion. But over time, they start acting in the complete opposite way. What happened along the way? Was the darkness always there, waiting to be revealed? Or were they shaped by their circumstances? Small actions and influences can slowly transform even the kindest people, revealing an uncomfortable truth. No one is entirely immune to straying from what's right. No one wakes up one day and suddenly decides to become cruel. In fact, it's the small, everyday decisions that gradually shape a person's character. Seemingly harmless little lies, withholding information, or choosing to ignore a mistake can pile up, and suddenly the line between right and wrong doesn't seem as clear. How many times have you given in to these small temptations? These daily choices, often made without much thought, can slowly erode your moral compass over time. Think about the times when someone decides to stay silent after witnessing something wrong. It might seem insignificant, but that's just one of the ways character starts to change. Slowly, a person drifts away from their core values, and those seemingly small, inconsequential decisions begin to shape how they relate to the world. In the end, isn't this how evil takes root, one decision at a time, until it becomes impossible to recognize who you used to be? In social situations, people often feel that their moral responsibility lessens. When in a group, many end up making decisions they might not have made on their own. This happens because the pressure from the collective acts as a psychological shield, allowing each person to justify their actions or lack of them. This phenomenon can be seen in various settings, such as in companies or even during protests, where personal morals seem to be replaced by the group's moral code. For instance, in a work environment, someone might find themselves ignoring wrongful behavior simply because everyone else is doing the same. This dilution of responsibility makes personal ethics more fragile, especially when the majority chooses not to act. Yet, even so, the impact of collective decisions can be devastating, as inaction often contributes to the continuation of injustices and wrongdoings. The challenge here is to keep your personal morals intact, even in social environments. Recognizing how the group can negatively influence you is the first step in resisting this tendency. Staying mindful that, even in a crowd, your responsibility for your own choices never disappears might be the key to standing firm in moments of social pressure. Emotions, although a natural part of the human experience, often interfere with our ability to make moral decisions. Emotions like anger, fear, or envy have the power to cloud our judgment, leading people to act impulsively. In these situations, it's common for actions to be driven by fleeting feelings, without much thought given to their consequences. This behavior can lead to regret, as the decisions made may not necessarily reflect the values of the person who made them. Take, for example, a situation where someone is angry. During an argument, a person might say harsh things they would never say when in a calmer emotional state. The heat of the moment takes over, and without realizing it, they cross a moral line that they would normally avoid. This kind of impulsive action, driven by emotion, shows how easy it is to lose track when there's no conscious effort to control one's reactions. To handle this, it's crucial to learn how to identify these moments. A good practice is to give yourself some time to breathe and think before making a decision, especially in emotionally charged situations. Recognizing the role emotions play is an important step to ensure that your choices are more in line with your personal values and not just instant reactions to how you feel in the moment. The bystander effect is a psychological phenomenon that explains why, in many emergency or unjust situations, people tend not to act when they're in a group. The theory, initially developed by social psychologists, suggests that the larger the number of witnesses present, the less likely it is that someone will intervene. This happens because the responsibility gets spread out among the observers, creating a false sense that someone else will do something, which often doesn't happen. A classic example of this theory is the 1964 case of Kitty Genovese in the United States. Kitty was brutally murdered, and even though dozens of neighbors heard her screams, almost no one tried to help or call the police right away. This case shocked the public and caught the attention of psychologists who studied why people tend not to act in emergencies when others are around. This phenomenon can be partly explained by the fact that each individual expects someone else to take the initiative, resulting in collective inaction. Being a bystander to an injustice doesn't free us from responsibility. The famous Bystander Effect theory shows how the presence of others can inhibit our moral actions, as if simply being in a group makes us believe someone else will step in. Often, this phenomenon leads to no one acting at all, allowing serious situations to unfold without interference. Watching passively can be just as harmful as actively participating. In everyday situations, like when we witness a fight or see someone in distress, this effect is particularly evident. For instance, when people witness a car accident, many don't take immediate action, assuming someone else has already called for help. This collective apathy creates a kind of complacency where the act of doing nothing becomes a choice, even if unintentionally. So, where's the line between just watching and taking part? It's common for people to adjust their moral principles based on circumstances. When faced with dilemmas involving self-preservation, personal interest, or social convenience, it's easy to justify small moral compromises. This can happen so subtly that we often don't realize how much we are compromising our values. This flexibility in morality is more common than we think and can occur in everyday situations, such as decisions at work or in personal relationships. Someone who always values honesty may find a reason to withhold the truth in a situation that threatens their reputation or comfort. Little by little, these small moral compromises add up, and what once seemed unacceptable starts to feel justifiable. This behavior not only compromises integrity, but also affects how those around us perceive our values, creating a disconnect between what we preach and what we actually practice. Often, cruelty doesn't show up as an act of action, but rather through indifference, when we choose not to act in a situation that calls for a moral response. We are, in a way, contributing to the problem. The absence of action or empathy can be just as harmful as a directly cruel act. This indifference can appear in different areas of life, whether in personal relationships, the workplace, or broader social issues. A common example is when we see someone in need but choose not to get involved, claiming it's not our problem. This stance may be comfortable in the short term, but over time, it creates a distance that dehumanizes both the observer and the one suffering from the injustice. Ignoring someone else's suffering, whether out of fear, convenience, or apathy, is a subtle way of perpetuating the cycle of cruelty. Breaking free from this indifference requires, first and foremost, a shift in perspective. Getting involved, even in small ways, can make all the difference in someone's life. Whether it's offering help, listening, or simply showing empathy, our actions can reverse this dynamic of inaction. Sometimes, true cruelty lies in doing nothing when you have the ability to help. It's easy to maintain an image of virtue when we're in the public eye. Many people practice what we call surface-level kindness, acting morally and correctly in public but revealing another side in their private actions. This gap between who we appear to be and who we truly are can erode personal integrity over time. Hypocrisy is not just about lying to others. It's mainly about deceiving ourselves. In the workplace, for instance, it's common to see people who preach ethics and honesty, but behind the scenes, they take actions that go against what they claim to stand for. This duality may seem harmless at first, but it undermines trust and weakens true virtue. Maintaining a moral facade while acting in ways that don't align with the principles we promote leads to a fragmented life where internal honesty is lost. Being truly good is a challenge that requires consistency in every area of life, not just where others can see. True virtue shows in the small actions, when no one is watching. Upholding integrity in those moments is what truly defines who we are. In the end, are we staying true to our values, or are we just maintaining an image for others? Small deviations from our principles, when added up, have the power to change our perception of what is right and wrong. Perhaps it's time to reflect on the choices we make every day, those that seem insignificant but deeply shape who we are. Are we truly aligned with our values, or are we being swayed by convenience and influences that pull us away from what we believe in?